Welcome to the new episode of the show called Behind the Success. In today's episode, we are going to talk about a lot of things which actually go within us. And how to get there is something a new perspective I would like to achieve through today's episode. So we have Nimisha with us, and I believe Nimisha doesn't need a lot of introduction as I used to give with a lot of guests. Uh, so welcome Nimisha to the show, and I'm really excited for today's episode.
Hi, Gaurav. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me over here. It's been a while. I haven't really done any podcast, any lives, nothing at all. And I think I'm more than happy to share this safe space with you because, yeah, I've always been able to share everything that I could feel in that moment every time I would even sit down for a coffee with you. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to what we can really channel today. Wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you. And in fact, I mean, I usually have my first question, which is very light question, but I would say looking at the energy you always bring, though this is more of a virtual setup, but then I still feel that vibes and energy. So I have a little more, I would say simple though philosophical question. And my question is, who is Nimisha? Who is Noor? And who is Nimisha as goddess?
Wow. Okay. We are directly putting all the light on the basis of identity. I like that. It's really interesting because the concept of identity has been really impactful for me. Like the sooner I realize that, the more I shift my identity, the more I shift everything around me. You know, so that's why I want to first of all express that I go with the belief that who I am is not what I do. Who I am is in this very moment who I am in this phase of my life, which is so seasonal and ever moving. So Nimisha right now is this awakening woman who's trying to reconnect with her body, is in love, and is really trying to reclaim her space, her voice in the smallest ways in her day-to-day life, honestly. So yeah, that's who Nimisha is. And who's Noor? Noor is very mystical, very powerful, very much withdrawn, and a person who really reflects. It's a story within a story, or a storyteller within a story, I would say. I am Noor, and Noor was his name. Was It was given to me while I was traveling across the country, and I never mentioned of it, but randomly people would just look at me and they was like, "Can I call you Noor?" And I said, sure, like,
Wow.
and it became a thing, and nobody would just kind of even ask me that, like, do you connect with this name? They would just look at me and they were like, you know what, like, can we call you Noor, and then it became my name, and I like that very much. So yeah. And I think Nimisha and Noor both are a goddess, and as a goddess, they are here to empower other goddesses and bow down to the goddesses around me. And that's what I've been doing, trying to really, uh, first of all, unlearn all the ways I've been shrinking my entire life. And then having this empathetic space with the women around me, and in fact, men around me, where they shrank and suppressed their feminine energy, the energy of the true goddess Earth, Mother Gaia, So, yeah, that's all I can say about Noor, Nimisha, and the goddesses that exist within them and all of us. Yeah.
That's lovely. And actually, I mean, you give me a lot of questions just by explaining that. But before I go there, uh, you talked about the identity aspect when you explained Noor, and as also a little bit research which I did, which took me to post. You also posted, and also I believe Humans of Bombay covered it. So at the age of 19, back in 2015, uh, I believe that there were certain instances which actually, I would say, an inner force drove you to take certain decisions, to leave everything behind, and to start everything again. I would like to know that what were the tipping point? What were the changes you have been going through. If you can tell something about that.
You know what fascinates me is that the changes I was going through back then are the exact changes I'm still going through even right now, which actually is about the cultural and lifestyle difference I experience with my biological family. Now, here the point is that earlier I was too young to, or I would say too traumatized to even sympathize or empathize with them, or even empathize with my own being, I would say. Before even them, I was not even compassionate towards my own existence. So yeah, I was just trying to fight with everything else and everything in myself and around me. So growing up, I knew at a very young age that I have a very different perspective towards everything in the world. And that I was gifted with this sense of, I was clairvoyant, I was clear sensatory, clairaudient. I would feel and sense things on a very heightened way. And when I tried communicating with the people around me, obviously they failed to understand. That kind of gave me this entire space where I just completely went like inside, like I started completely withdrawing from people, you know. So for the longest time I would just like be with myself, stay alone and paint, and I was completely an introvert being, you know. And this I'm talking about at the age of 11, 12, like, you know, where I would tell my father that, listen, I think so I'm here for a different purpose, like, you know, I think I'm gonna really leave someday, and I have so much more else. I have dreams, I have these visions, I see this, I feel that. There was so much more that was just flowing out of me, but obviously they could not comprehend. My dad could easily sense, because I see he's the most emotionally intelligent man I've ever met in my life. So that's very inspiring to me. And thank God for that. So yeah, a lot of my spiritual awakening, I think so, has actually received a lot of, nutrients, I would say, from his existence. And yeah, and by the age of like 16, 17, obviously I became this completely conventional rebel who just really wanted to kind of do her own thing in her own way. But there was still a huge difference. I was continuously communicating with the universe.
Hmm.
It was as if I wasn't really about, oh, this is why what I would like to wear. No, it was more of like, I want to see what the universe has to offer me. Like as if I'm here for a higher purpose. Like every day I would wake up and be like, so how can I change the world today? How can I change the world today? You know, since the very beginning of, since I was conceived, I would say, I came out of my mother's womb and I was just looking around like, how can I change the world? You know, like that, you know. So yeah, since then until even now, I think so that's quite consistent. Um, my sweet tooth is kind of very consistent, and my parents have become very, how do I say, understanding of my journey, of my path, and how I have chosen this so consciously. We have been respecting each other's boundaries pretty much. I see their awakening, I acknowledge it, and I think that's the greatest gift I've received in my life, while really awakening myself at the same time, to see their awakening and going through all that thick and thin. And together right now, even if we live in two different spaces, like, you know, having our own space to grow, um, particularly, yes, that I think so that was my tipping point, when I took this call of leaving the house around age of 18, 19. And it was one of those ways my mother always taught me, you know, that, you know, if you are such a dreamer, you know, then live a life where you are actually living that dream more than you kind of can accommodate it even in the present moment. So to explain it in a better manner, like, if you really want to make this happen, go make this happen. So usually when somebody would say it to somebody, like, you would be like, oh, you know, this is just kind of motivating. Well, it wasn't really motivating for me, I tell you. But little did she know that she was talking to somebody who really could do it. You know. So I did leave my house, and that changed everything for me, because earlier I was just traveling with my soul, and I was visionary. And now I had the freedom to travel with my body physically as well, meet people physically. And that was a whole new level of liberation for me, to connect on a very intimate level with people, not online, but offline more, having an eye contact, like really holding them, embracing them, and triggering them for good. And I think so that was it. And yeah, till now it's actually just the same. It's just my hair has grown wider. Pretty much that's it.
And
Yeah.
also, I believe a lot more people following you as well. So that's also one side to it.
Oh,
But yeah, I definitely agree when you talked about your dad. And since I also met him a couple of times, I can definitely relate about his emotional intelligence and how uh, patient listener he is when it comes to times like that. So I definitely, I would say that's really a blessing. But then I also, one aspect I would like to know that since you talked about the awakening in terms of you want to do something bigger for the universe, were there any frustrating points which helped you in order to reach there? I mean, any particular incident, any particular thought process?
yes, big time. And I'm glad that it was there, the conflict, I think our generation has been raised in quite a limbo, like in families where our parents were not even as connected to the roots as their grandparents were. And so I had no clue where I was coming from. I was a completely rootless being. Zero knowledge of my culture, no particular language to really stand by. I was very much triggered by the, how do I say, attitude and personality of the artist community, lots of victim identities around me, and victimization everywhere, and at the same time, my journey, I think so, has been very much, how do I say, fueled by my quest for love. I am being a lover, I would fall in love at the most random time, in the most random places, with the most random people, and who I would feel spiritually connected with. And with just this entire imagination of me really traveling with them, I would just kind of go out of my comfort zone, completely, just like give myself away. And that has actually played a big role in my life to, just kind of, I would say, expand. So yeah, one major thing that I think so kind of fueled my spiritual journey as well was the wild feminine energy. You know, the fact that what is this thing called acceptable woman, and what is this thing called shameless and non-acceptable and unconventional woman. What is this entire distinction, and which category do I fall into? And of course I knew it at a very young age, that with having such strong opinions and a voice of my own, I was very much looked at as this black sheep. And I was suppressed, and well, I did not want to be suppressed. So that kind of gave me clarity that, damn it, then I think so there is another way out here. Let's not, then let's just expand even further, like further and further, so that nobody can even think of suppressing you. Like they should not even have the power to suppress you. So that kind of encouraged me to just go beyond. Yeah.
That's lovely. And in fact, I would definitely agree when you say that. And I would also like to say from a perspective that a lot of people see you wearing a lot of different hats. Some people see you as a model, some people see you as an artist, some people see you as an influencer. But I would also say that there's another element to it which maybe not lot people are aware of, which you're also you're also a metaphysical anatomy practitioner, right? So uh, and I was actually trying to dig a little deeper in order to understand what exactly it is. And I stumbled to a research where Everett Rose clearly mentioned that it is about hidden trauma and pain which has been hidden, or you can say that we have been escaping in a way, and we have been just burying the pain inside us. So, I would like to know that how you came across it and what exactly you are currently trying to do.
Wonderful. I think that would really help people to understand this better. So, being an emotional being, and also kind of diving deeper and deeper with each passing day into my own emotions, I realized that emotional hygiene and emotional health is highly neglected and is very underrated, I would say. The only emotions that we were able to identify while growing up is happiness, sadness, anger, um, max to max frustration, or like that. But there's such a huge spectrum of emotions right there. Boom, like this entire like pie chart that we can make. Not in fact, pie chart is also going to be smaller to contain it, but like even the anger has different ones, like, agitation, frustration, and this entire I would say from red to green and green to red, like this entire spectrum of healthy and unhealthy, positive and negative emotions kind of made it difficult for people to express it equally, communicate it equally. For example, as easy it would be for a person to communicate happiness, it's not easy for them to communicate anger. That when I walk into a space and I'm happy, anybody and everybody would get to know, like I'm happy, and I'll tell people, listen, this made me happy, this happened, and I feel this right now. But the same way, if I'm angry, we are usually taught to be very passive about it. I let people guess why I'm angry, kind of situation. Or maybe I'll just throw my hands around, or maybe I'll throw things, or I switch off my phone, or all these passive ways, or I'll maybe hit somebody or something like that. So what I understood is that until unless we don't really breathe into these emotions in different parts of our body, we will never be able to really process them equally. That was my first realization, before even being introduced to metaphysical anatomy. So when I understood that, wow, so if I'm breathing in anger and it's literally traveling in different parts of my body, I have a different sensation specifically in only a few parts of my body. Why is that? So does that mean that every emotion gets stored in different part of the body? Well, that changed my life when I got to learn about it in metaphysical anatomy. So for example, if I have financial stress, then this area around my shoulders and neck would pain. If I have a lot of insecurity around my identity, then my lower back would hurt. And that if I have a lot of sexual trauma or painful periods or a lot of motherhood wounds and so much of all of that, then my chest area and my pelvic area will hurt, and anger, yes, my pelvic area will hurt again. So all of this basically gave me clarity that it's all psychosomatic, that all the emotions get to different parts of the body. And until unless we don't really release the emotion, first of all, by identifying and acknowledging it, then it never really goes away. And more or less, it just turns into something else, like over the passing period of time, and more diseases and more disorders and whatnot. So underlying it, if it all, like it's an emotion that is stored there. And metaphysical anatomy kind of gave me the training, equipped me to really help people release that trauma without really kind of reliving the traumatic event over and over again. It involves a lot of breathing techniques, like really tapping into the alpha, delta, beta brain waves, really kind of identifying the emotion in the first place. Like, what exactly are you feeling? Where do you think it is stored in your body? Can you scan? Do you think, where do you feel? Is it heavier on the inside? Is it heavier on the outside? Okay. So if it's heavier on the outside, do you really see someone's, face when you think of this heaviness? Like, is it of your mom? Like, oh, okay. If it's of my mom, like, okay. Then moving on to the next one. Like, it's like, it's a beautiful process. It's very interesting, So yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
That's very lovely. I mean, you actually explain in such a layman language. I believe a lot of our listeners can visualize and understand it. So thank you for that. Now, since you talked about it, the another thing which popped up in my mind is that I see a lot of my friends, and I believe it will be the same case with you or a lot of our listeners as well. Uh, as a human, as an Indian culture, we are suppressed in terms of exhibiting emotions. And I'm saying when I'm talking about emotions, it is all kind of emotions, be it any gender, I mean, they're obviously uh, different level of suppressing when it comes to gender bias. So that's going to be the case. But then I would like to know that how or let's say people who are listening to this, can create a space where their friends, their relatives can exhibit more of their emotions.
Mm. Wow, that is so relevant. So relevant. Thank you so much for asking me that question. Um, we'll have to first of all understand that as much as we romanticize empathy, it's not really that golden, you know. And there's a thing called conscious listening that we'll have to start practicing. That today, if you are in some deep shit, and I come to you and I sit next to you and be like, yeah, tell me everything. And first of all, you were in pain, and then I just start empathizing with you, and then I also feel the pain. And then there are two painful people in the room. There's no solution that came out of it. But when I just come and I realize, first of all, that what exactly you need in that moment in order to feel safe, seen, heard, and in general held, So if I sense, or if I ask you, that would you like to receive a space to share? Do you want to vent? And you say, yes, Nimisha, I think I want to verbally vent, can you? So in that moment, what I'll do, first of all, I can just prepare myself mentally in that very moment that this person is going to share verbally, and I don't have to take it personally. I don't even have to, in fact, analyze it, or I just have to be this person who is respecting where this person is coming from. That's all. No suggestion, no advices, just allow this person to just speak. That's first way to go about it, to ask this person, how would you like to feel safe? What would make you feel safe in this moment? And another thing that we have to really go beyond our own self, lots of times, in order to really make other people feel seen. For example, if I see some books behind you right now, and I feel like, oh, Gaurav is not feeling okay, or I feel like giving Gaurav something. And what if, like, you're this person that doesn't read at all, and I just give you like 10 books tomorrow and be like, you know what, why? Because these are my favorite books, you should read. This will make you feel amazing, Gaurav. Like, and you're like, but like, I don't like, I think rather, why don't you send me a nice paragraph, like, or maybe just listen to me, or maybe just send me a playlist, or can we just go for a silent drive? How about that, Nimisha?
True.
So you see how it's so different, how people like to be heard and to be seen. And that's the level of accommodation we have to be equipped with in order to facilitate a safe space for each other. That we need to ask each other, hey, what would make you feel safe? Can I do something for you in that regards? What is your receiving love language? What is your giving love language? So yeah, people don't talk about it enough. I think they should. I think so. Yeah.
That's very insightful, and I would say definitely I am making my own notes while listening to you, and I also see you using a lot of times being vulnerable in a lot of your posts, and I feel somewhat a lot of people are losing that. And also one aspect I see is that, okay, whenever we see uh, someone taking their lives in current times, a lot of people actually come in terms of supporting mental health. But I also see that a lot of times people listen to reply, not to understand. And I guess that's where the conscious listening is coming up. But I would like to know more about that. Uh, what is your version of being vulnerable, and are there any limits to it? Is there any masking you do around when you create a boundary? Because a lot of times people have uh, either fear of judgment or fear of inexperience. I mean, there are a lot of fears possibly out there. So how do you define vulnerability for someone?
Yeah. Wow. Um, I think to start with, I can easily say that I'm sharing a vulnerable space with you right now,
Right.
right? So I'm being vulnerable in the moment. And I think the fairest thing that I can do to myself in this moment is to allow myself to be as scattered I can be. You know, what if I take some pauses and then speak? What if I just be like, can I take a few deep breaths before speaking something? Or what if I just start crying in this moment and be like, I just got overwhelmed, because what you shared. So this is authenticity. Knowing that if I do not show this to you, I am hiding it first from my own self. I'm hiding away from my own being, of my own reality. And for how long do I want to do that? And what exactly is it really benefiting me with? Like, for example, in professional spaces, this comes up a lot, that be professional. Like, no, you can't show your emotional side to the people you're really hiring and all of that, and I get it. Like, a lot of it makes sense, because when it comes to work, but I still get it that there's a concept called holistic coaches and holistic bosses, and that you can actually create a safe space for humans to be humans. Before employees or employers, they are human beings, and so are we. Like, before a Zoom call, like, which it's two human beings sitting on the either side of the screen, and either of us can right now, just feel anything, and that makes the two of us vulnerable. It's mutual vulnerability. So I think that's what I really love the most, that when we say, even in my sessions, I never tell the person that I will heal you or I will transform you. No, I say, let's do this together. Let's be mutually vulnerable. That even if while taking the session, I might just start really crying because what I just channeled was so powerful. So understand is that it's not my fragile nature or something that is making me do it, but it's how human I am and how I'm appreciating that this is me. I'm not going to sit and tick like, oh, so this is what you, okay. Like, no, I appreciate how human you are. I appreciate how human I am. Let's cultivate the growth together. And that's where vulnerability, I think, so is the greatest gift we all human beings can have. We have, that, hey, you know what? This is who I am. This is who you are. Now let's do something, And how well can you accept me if I'm vulnerable? And what stops you from accepting me when I'm vulnerable? Because if it stops you from accepting me when I'm vulnerable, then you are desensitized. You have dehumanized some parts of you. And well, that's your inner work to do. That's what I tell people. Well, that's what your inner work to do, because I have nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to me being human and having human emotions. And I'm a beautiful creation of this beautiful universe and the earth. And I am supposed to be cyclic being. I'm not supposed to be linear. I'm supposed to be cyclic, just like a moon. I flow with the moon. So yeah, I truly acknowledge the spaces where I get to be vulnerable, and I reclaim it, honestly. In this moment, if I take a pause, I will literally like do it because I'm reclaiming my space, that, I'm taking the space to be vulnerable. And I think that's what people should do. Even when they enter a workspace, for example, like, and they are being interviewed by anybody, I think they should definitely reclaim their spaces just as human beings first. Yeah.
That's very interesting. And since you talked about reclaiming the space, I would like to go to the reclaiming my power, and that's something the another initiative you're working on. But again, since I have been asking you questions, little thoda sa ghuma karke, and I will do the same here as well. So it just clicked me that in a lot of traditions, and let's specifically talk about, let's say, Hindu tradition. There's a concept called that when Shiva and Shakti comes together, that's where the uh, human being evolution happens, and when the Shakti is being called majorly as the divine power. So I'd like to know that when you're talking about reclaiming your power, is it anything related to the divine power being called mythologically, or is there anything else like plus or minus to it?
Yes, of course, there is plus and minus to it. But yes, how do I kind of um, it's actually going beyond the cultural scape and realizing that it doesn't matter which culture or mythology basically we are really reading and coming from, be it Shakti or Shiva or anything, like, at the end of the day, how a person is accommodating and honoring the feminine energy kind of um, manifest into everything in their aspects of their world, if their physical reality, basically. And if you really see it, we are living in a feminine planet. Okay, it's the source of creation, basically, as you said, the Shakti, like, it's the ultimate, feminine force. life force is feminine. And there's a history behind its suppression. There's a history behind, and there's so many conflicts that basically we have been just dealing with as we grew up. Like, we took birth in the emotion of conflict only. Earlier, it wasn't conflict. Earlier, it was ecstasy. But now it's a combination of pain and relief, for a woman when she's giving birth. So, and the very first emotion that a woman feels while giving birth becomes dominant emotion of the child. And that is literally the conflict of two emotions. So our life goes in conflict, which is a beautiful space for growth. And the thing is that our physical reality right now is very much, how do I say, we have to trust. We have to trust that there is something greater than our ego, that there is something greater than the things that are bringing us down and are destroying us. There's something greater power which is guiding us somewhere for our own growth as an awakening soul. And I think this entire realization brings me back to this place of, when we say reclaiming the feminine energy and Shakti, that if you cannot get in touch with this life force itself, you're just fooling around. So when I see a person who's creating amazing art or being very, like, how do I say, spiritual or scientific, and suddenly I see them not at all having any emotional connect or spiritual connect with the women in their life, be their mother or their sister, I find it very disconnecting, because that means they're still stuck in conditioning. They're still stuck on a previous realm, and they have to work their way out. It's not going to be comfortable. It's going to be destroying of their ego, of a lot of shadow work, crying and releasing and moving and whatnot, going through hell. But ultimate freedom, yes, that's it. Knowing that Shakti is always ecstatic, it's moving. And if you're not moving with it, then you are, the block itself. There's nothing else blocking you. You are the block yourself. So to liberate yourself, you'll have to tap into the power of the Shakti, of the true goddess, the fierce goddess, and the one that cannot be tamed. And it's within all of us, that life force that helps us create and have amazing, pleasurable times in our lives and really manifest our reality, and so much of it. So yeah, we can't be one-sided in this scenario. It can't be like, yeah, I'm so spiritual, and then I talk bullshit to my mother, that, I don't want to be a good father. I can't be a father. Look, I can't be a mother. No, listen. This all is, it comes as a package. You can't choose just one and neglect the other. You can make your way slowly to the entirety of it, but don't neglect it. It's like when people say that, oh, education is so expensive, I say, try ignorance. It's more expensive, So don't be an ignorant person, and see what exactly you can find within your own self. And yeah, pretty much it's only possible when you start realizing how much of your feminine energy you are suppressing or not acknowledging enough. Yeah.
Right. So before we move to the second segment, I have the last question, which just came up while listening to you. I believe a lot of men also have. A lot of people even don't know that they. All of us have the feminine energy in different proportions, and I would like to know from you that how, let's say, men listeners who are listening to it can actually reclaim their power. And when I'm saying that, I mean unlocking their feminine energy and also understanding uh, their emotions much better way. So how do you explain that?
um, First of all, they'll have to start creating space for it. Because just by saying that I want to change, it doesn't happen. You'll have to make sure to embark on this journey, of reclaiming the power, that there's so much that they'll have to unlearn, and it's going to be painful again. It will destroy so much of the previous belief system that is going to be triggering for people around them. And then a lot of people might not even accept them anymore, and on the cost of all of that, Now, are you ready to embark on this journey? That question always looms. And that's why most people, they just don't want to. They want to live in the bubble, of that whatever entire acceptable form of masculine energy. But the I think the clear thing now, which is just so in our face, is that the coming generation won't really live this way. So we'll have to change. We'll have to change. There's no other way around. So for them, I would say, start moving one step at a time. Start educating yourself in a manner where you start remembering who you truly are. Are you really this man who the society has described you to be, or you are really beyond this concept of manhood that this society has given you? How does your body speak to you? Why don't you move your pelvic region enough? Why don't you move enough? What stops you from identifying yourself as a man who's capable of really protecting the woman and the man both inside? Basically, they basically, it's kind of a huge history again behind of this entire origin of patriarchy and how this feminism movement came up and all of these. Okay, in the last, I think, 6 months of my life, I think, is the time period when I learned the most about it. And I was so ignorant, growing up. I knew there was something off, but I was still very ignorant. I would say I'm so okay with accepting it. But the last few months of my life, I just went crazy. I was like, no, I want to know. I want to know what has really happened. I want to know what all I need to unlearn, what the men around me need to unlearn. And that's what I've been doing. I've been empowering men around me to really be their true self, to really take in charge, to really be the man that they actually want to be, not what their parents want them to be. um, Being a man is beyond the financial responsibility. Being a man is beyond controlling a woman. Being a man is more than all of that. It's more about the structure and the foundation of the masculine energy. Because if the universe is created with the feminine force, which is so dynamic and chaotic, the one that stabilizes and keeps it in place is masculine. So, and they both go hand in hand. It's a beautiful kind of composition. And if the man will try to be like, I'm gonna, it's not gonna happen. And if the woman is like, no, it's not gonna happen. It's a beautiful, just balance and culmination. And I think that's the only way we all can survive. That if the man inside of me stops being scared or overpowering or toxic, and the woman inside of me stops being the pseudo man and accepts how flourishing and nourishing and fierce she is, they both together are invincible. And that's the example we have to set. I think even the men, they have to start realizing what's the language they're using towards their own feminine sides and the women around in their life, and how can they really change the perspective and educate themselves basically about how basically women were, or how their mothers, where their mothers are coming in the first place and how they came into this world. The best thing they can do is to start really educating themselves about a woman's body. I would definitely say that they need to start educating themselves about a woman's body, because I think science has really done a lot of fuck up in this scenario, because there's a lot of misogyny in science, by the way. There's so many, I can literally recommend you so many books that how science is actually very misogynistic. And I had no clue about it, man. Now I'm just after meeting so many people who are very well educated in this, I realized that, oh my God, they literally did not study a woman's body at all properly. They assumed that, yeah, their bodies are similar, and they would just do tests on men's body and they would give the same to the women's body, and it was, and the seat belts of the car, they're not, a car is not designed for a woman's body. And the medical field or any field for NASA, in fact, it's all not at all, the environment is not at all, how do I say, supporting or empowering for a woman's body at all. In fact, the menstrual cycle and everything. So I think men need to really, first of all, come back to zero and start from zero, and start understanding what goes in a woman's body. So I think that's how they will really get to know that, oh my God, this happened, oh my God, I came from here. So I think that would really kind of bring a shift in them, and allow the women to flourish. Stop deciding for her. In fact, I have realized one thing in life, that when a woman is her most authentic self, her wildest self, where she's not even compromising in any aspect of her life, being with a man or anybody or any partner, in fact, anybody around, then they also expand. They have to. They have no choice. But only when a woman starts to just like, okay, I'll make my way around you. You decide first, like that. Then eh, everything kind of just goes like this. So I'm not here trying to say that, oh, women are to be, not nothing like that. But it's like a man also needs to realize this, that what are the ways, like basically they have assumed that they have to take away that space from the women, and women also have to understand that why they have to give away their power in order to be accepted. So I think I would end with that. Yeah, that we
Definitely.
all need
So,
to.
go on.
Yeah, no, that's it.
All right. So I think that's a very interesting perspective, and I was actually hoping that while asking the question that I would like to hear things on this note, and I'm really glad that it happened. So thank you for opening up and also sharing, I would say, wide perspectives around everything and being extremely open and being vulnerable while sharing it. So I really appreciate that. And with this, I would like to move to the second segment, which is called Spotlight. And in the second segment, what we do is both I and guests, they share one recommendation for our listeners. It could be a book, it could be a movie, it could be a documentary, a reading, anything you would like to share. So you want to go first?
Sure, I'll just get done with it. Yeah, I highly recommend this book called Her Blood is Gold by Lara Owen, and also Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola. And I highly recommend a couple of people, obviously on Instagram, the holistic psychologist and Catherine Sinkina, and lots of people. In fact, Devin Fredrickson basically is this person I have some Instagram live session with. He works with men and help them really harness their healthy masculine energy and sexuality. Um, what else? Yeah, I think a lot of, yeah, pretty much. That's it for now.
All right. So I think for me, I would, apart from recommending you, I would also recommend an interesting read. I would say I would not came across recently, but then I keep going and checking on it. So it's a research by the Harvard Business School, and so they did kind of research over the period of long 80 years, and they studied people over the period of time in order to understand what makes them happy. And I am sharing this because we talked about a lot about embracing and understanding emotions. So I believe a lot of people would love it, and you can actually see that how they studied and how they see a direct connection between your physical health and your mental well-being, and also vice versa. And I will be sharing the link of the report in the episode's link, so people can directly access that. So that's my recommendation for the day. And with this, I would like to officially close the today's episode. Thank you, Nimisha, for being with us and sharing, I would say, your expertise, your understanding about the so-called important thing, which is knowing ourselves. A lot of times we do understand just the body and not the emotions, but at times we just understand emotions and not the body. And I believe it's important to understand your heart, mind, body, and soul. And I believe this episode actually gave me a lot of insights, and I'm sure a lot of listeners will have a lot of takeaways from here. So thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gaurav. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being part of the episode. I am sure I'll be looking forward all of you in the next episode. Meanwhile, please take care and stay safe.